Yeah, boy.
Hey guys, I'm very excited to share this video with you today as it includes a lot of really cool additions to Outward. This mod is called NPC Weapons and was created by user Permitivity. Once installed, your game will get a brand new skill tree, 33 new weapons, all from NPCs, and 1 new disease. The icons for each weapon and skill are extremely professional and arguably better looking than the ones in the regular game. Clearly a lot of time went into this, so do check it out if you feel so inclined. Here is the mod NPC Weapons and everything included in it. Now, I wanted to start with the new skills as they're the coolest part, but you need certain weapons for them. So as to not confuse you, we'll be looking at the new selection of weapons first. Blood Spear. This is the bloody spear wielded by Beastmasters in the Antique Plateau. The bonded Beastmaster has a 25% chance of dropping it, and it drips blood, making you look like a menace. It is completely indestructible, meaning no durability, and it may inflict the user with bleeding. Of course, this sounds bad until you realize this is not extreme bleeding. There's a huge difference, as extreme bleeding will kill you rather quickly, while the bleeding effect here can be out-healed by pretty much any healing. It's hardly even noticeable. Very good attack speed with decent damage. A little low on the side of impact, but that's pretty standard for spears. Blood Sword. This works the exact same way as the Blood Spear, except it has an 18% drop rate from Blood Sorcerers. You get a weapon that will never break with very fast attack speed. The low impact of these blood weapons makes sense when you realize they're not physical items, merely constructs of a sort. Kinda funny that an enemy could summon such a weapon and then you take it from them and wield it forever. Both of these weapons also inflict blood leech, making them kind of better than vampiric weapons. Much easier to get and indestructible. Butcher's Halberd. An extremely fast halberd dealing some decay damage and a good amount of physical as well. You can obtain this item several ways: defeating the Butcher of Men, legacy chesting an Immaculate Halberd, or legacy chesting the Butcher Cleaver. The purple streak effect on this weapon makes it stand out, and considering its fast attack speed, it's got a lot of potential. You'll notice a lot of weapons on this list aren't necessarily super strong in terms of damage, but they have great attack speed, which I think makes them more balanced and fun to use at the same time. Calixa's Macegun. This is a watered-down version of the weapon Calixa wields. It can be bought from engineer Orston in Levant. Unfortunately, I forgot to check how much it costs, but considering its power, I imagine it's quite expensive. It's a one-handed mace that deals 6 damage in everything except for raw damage. You're getting a lot of power hitting with each element, and buffing properly will make this thing very, very strong. Its attack speed is neutral at 1, with pretty subpar impact for a mace. The damage is the highlight here, obviously. For those of you who have messed around with the debug for Outward on PC, you might know this item is something you can spawn in. It's very, very broken normally, and this mod adds it in a fixed fashion. Lightning Scimitar. Acquired from crafting a Jade Scimitar, 1 Copal, 1 Firestone, and 1 Firefly Powder together. It's the Jade Scimitar but a lightning version. Goes very well with the Entomber set and does a number on the Jade Doggies. Swing with a fast attack speed and nice amount of lightning damage. Inflicting Doomed, which makes enemies weak to lightning, huge considering it also provides -5% mana cost. A nice pairing with the Lightmender's Lexicon. The only downside is low durability. I will say, it's a nice looking sword. Crackling Urn Backpack. This is a 19-pound backpack that looks very cool. Dropped from the unique enemy Cracked Gargoyle in the Ark of the Exiled at a rate of 100%. It's a unique item, essentially. You have 50 capacity in it, but not much else. If paired with some skills I will talk about later, you can summon weapons used by the unique Gargoyle. Awesome item that will make you look quite menacing. Jin's Chakram. Dropped from the Jin if you beat him in his second form, which means you need to be doing the new Sirocco questline. Kind of a goofy looking item, but deals 18 ethereal and lightning damage. Very strong pairing of elements, and considering how Chakrams work, could be a great weapon. I don't have much to say about it other than that it works great as a Chakram, with nice impact and could really diversify Chakram builds. Dream World Halberd. Acquired from legacy chesting the Butcher's Halberd, this ghostly item deals 11 physical and 30 ethereal. Very low impact, but with a 1.2 attack speed, you can get in attacks quickly. It feels pretty solid and works exactly like a ghostly weapon should. I think I still prefer the Dreamer Halberd simply due to impact being so valuable, but it stands on its own. Firethorn Claymore. Crafted from Thorny Claymore, Greasy Tea, Smoke Root, and the Chemist's Broken Flask. A very cool looking sword that deals a low amount of fire and physical damage. The interesting thing is that it inflicts elemental vulnerability and scorched at the same time, which makes enemies 50% weaker to fire damage overall. The enemy must be burning for this to proc, so it's not exactly perfect for every scenario, but in longer fights, you will slowly gain a massive advantage, even against the most fire-resistant enemies. Urn Backpack. This can be crafted using 2 Gargoyle Urn Shards, 1 Crystal Powder, and 1 Obsidian Shard. Or it also has a 6% drop rate from Gargoyles. This is quite a rare chance, so crafting may be your best bet. This is still a neat item, but it works the same as the other Gargoyle Backpack. You can summon weapons with skills, except this one looks less cool compared to its brother version. Iron Sides Hammer. Heck yeah, man, this thing's crazy. So, it can be bought from Iron Sides of the Giant Village. It's an enormous weapon, making you feel like a little man wielding a giant's hammer. Plus, it comes with 95 damage and 155 impact. Those are some big numbers. However, it's definitely a more gimmicky type of weapon, as you also get plus 40% stamina cost, negative 25% movement speed, and the chance to inflict Breathless, Dispirited, Pain, Confusion, Hampered, and the Hunch on you, the player. It knocks every enemy instantly and deals massive damage, but grants you a ton of negative effects. A very fun idea regardless, as you could try to go for a one-hit kill, or pack a lot of Panacea to cure yourself. I mean, just looking at the thing, it's a giant hammer. Use this with Juggernaut one time, and I guarantee you, you'll be having fun. Giant Kind Poleaxe. You can purchase this item from Iron Sides in the Giant Village, or get it to drop from Ash Giants at a rate of 9%. I think this is the item Giants use on a regular basis. If I remember correctly, they don't actually use the axe that they normally drop to the player. This weapon is a solid physical-based weapon that has high impact and a neutral attack speed. Giant Kind Crossbow. Of course, this is the dreaded crossbow that Caldera Giants sport, and finally, we get the OP weapon. You can only melee with it without the cool skill from the new skill tree. The damage is about what you would expect. Good, but nothing crazy, and it's very slow. The big deal is going to be shooting Giant Kind bolts, but like I said, we'll talk about that skill a little later. The item drops from Giant Hunters at a rate of 9%, or you can buy it from Ironsides in the Giant Village. Giant Kind Katana. Finally, we have a katana in Outward. The Giants actually walk around with katanas, but never drop or use them. This here feels exactly like a Giant's katana, and can be pretty good. 15 physical and fire damage. That's about it, but the artwork on it looks sick. It still feels like a very mid-level weapon due to it being, well, a Giant's weapon, but neat to get a katana nonetheless. Gold Lich Cannon. Oh yeah, the weapon you likely clicked on this video for. The Gold Lich Cannon. Dropping from Golden Specters at a rate of 14%, this massive beast kinda sucks, having very little damage overall and an extremely slow attack speed. This is another item that is complete crap without its cool skill. And I'll mention, this one gets 2 skills. So you're not going to melee with it, instead we'll be using it as a ranged option. Very magic based, but come on, it looks awesome, you can't disagree with that. Gold Lich Staff. The Gold Lich has a weapon never dropped from him. This would be a bright yellow staff of unique design. Here we can finally obtain it, and it's one of the better staves. 20% bonus to lightning damage with negative 20% mana cost. Small amount of physical and lightning damage, but high amount of impact, especially for a staff. If you're looking for a good melee option, as a true mage, this works well. And I love the look. Don't know why, but it gives me the feeling of power. Immaculate Blade. Drop from Immaculate Raiders at a 22% drop rate, this thing is a beast. Great attack speed, nice impact, and good damage. It's especially effective against Lightmender peons as its 12 decay damage rips through them. The problem here is Starchild is eons above this as a two-handed sword, and horror weapons are likely still better due to extreme poison. But as an alternate item and just due to its attack speed, it's interesting. Immaculate Halberd. Dropped from a regular Immaculate, this weapon works exactly the same as the last one. I think having more options from drops is a good idea. Not all weapons have to be the best or even unique, but having many more options to choose from is good for replayability and player choice. Immaculate Mace. Dropped from the Immaculate, likely the one wielding such a weapon, it has a 22% drop rate. Unlike its two brothers, this guy is very slow, but wields higher damage and really nice impact. You have some seriously bonk potential, and it will work well in a decay-based build with physical as support. Ore. Here's a fun one. You can now get an ore in Cierzo to whack people upside the head with. Pick it up in the rowboat near the water purifier. Of course, it's really bad, but it's a starter weapon and a piece of wood. If it was good, that wouldn't make much sense. Considering most early game weapons are trash, meaning wooden ones, and your basic machete, this adds up. You're supposed to get most of your damage from rags anyway. Rake. Or you can go with the Rake. There is an NPC in Cierzo which holds a rake and, well, never seems to be working. But beside her is now a rake. Very poor damage just like the ore, but if you're looking for a goofy early weapon, this could be it. Scarlet Fang Knuckles. I really can't give this mod enough credit. Some of the weapons are really cool. The Scarlet Fang Knuckles are dropped from Scarlet Emissaries at a 13% rate. They are devastatingly powerful. Not only do they look insane, but they deal 15 fire and lightning damage, and inflict Holy Blaze. Pop a Fire Varnish and destroy everything. It's the slowest attack speed for Knuckles, but I've never found Knuckles speed to matter too much. They hit twice per attack, making up for any lack of speed. Most of the time. The impact is very low, but really you're just going to brace and then inflict Holy Blaze as soon as possible. That'll then take care of most enemies, unless they have high electric resistance. Small Golem Rapier. Craft this with a broken Golem Rapier, Palladium Scrap, and 1 Crystal Powder. Finally, we can use the Golem Rapier like it was actually a rapier. A small one-handed weapon that is fast and ready for pokes. In fact, the description says it excels at thrusting attacks. I don't know if they gave it more reach when using the special attack or what, but it really does work better with poke attacks. You can hit very far away, and it's got some really nice damage to it. A simple, yet very nice addition to the game. Snowthorn Claymore. Crafted from a thorny claymore, iced tea, crawlberry, and chemist's broken flask. Of course, we already got a fire version of this, so we must have the ice version. It works the same way as the other, inflicting elemental vulnerability and chill on slowed enemies. I like it, looks really cool, but I'm not going to use it over a fabulous Palladium Shield and Sky Crown combo. That's just too good of an option for me to not take. Shovel. As soon as you exit your house at the start of the game, you can turn left and near some boxes is a shovel. Bad damage, good attack speed, somewhat decent impact as a starting weapon. I don't remember where the NPC is that has a shovel, but I have to say walking around with one is something I didn't know I needed. Thermal Spear. Crafted with a Thermal Claymore, Power Coil, Firestone, and Coldstone. This spear is amazing. I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed this one. If you notice, it looks exactly like the giant spear in the middle of the desert. The one attached to the giant sculpture. With 50 physical damage, 33 impact, 1 attack speed, and 15% damage bonus to fire and cold damage. It's just the boss item from the base game that's a two-handed sword, but now it's a spear. But I actually think it works better as a spear. It also inflicts pain, which means it doesn't even need a varnish to be a top-tier weapon. With a fire or ice varnish, it instantly becomes likely the best spear. I found pretty much every detail about this weapon to be perfect, and in combat, it's unmatched. Wolf Tower Shield. Bought from Engineer Orston of Levant for likely a lot of silver, this is Calixa's shield. For those who have long awaited to get their hands on such an elegant weapon, here it is. A massive shield that inflicts pain and extreme bleeding on shield charge. It also sports massive damage, making it work very well as an offensive weapon rather than just a defensive one. Finally, we get to the last weapon added, those being the Cage Fists. Legacy-chested versions of the Porcelain Fists, these are just purple energy swords from Halo. The Immaculate Bird boss uses these, and they're darn powerful, that's for sure. Dealing 5 damage in every type besides raw, these also inflict elemental vulnerability, making them one of the best elemental weapons in the game. Blasting your foes with elemental damage and then weakening them to it, enough to crush them quickly. Very low impact, but with a 1.2 attack speed, you'll be in and out of combat in no time. I see a lot of potential in these, and they probably stand as the new best Knuckles. Those are all the weapons added in with this mod. I think it adds quite a bit, and each is at least interesting, if anything else. Now, before we get to the skills, we do need to talk about one new disease that was added in. It's called Corruption Poisoning. All Immaculate-based weapons and weapon skills inflict the disease Corruption Poisoning on the player. This disease can be cleared using a Hex Cleaner, Fungal Cleanser, or Panacea. It does not inflict its negative effects when in safe areas, such as cities. There looks to be 3 levels of this disease, although I only ever reached the first, so it doesn't seem too hard to manage. Of course, dealing with that much health burn means Hex Mage is going to be a must, but the reason for this new disease is that some of the skills make use of Corruption to deal damage. This makes it easy to have Corruption, especially in regions like Caldera where there is none. If you enter Harmattan and head over to the tall building in the back, you head up to the very top where the Headmaster is. Here will be a new NPC named Darvil Carillion, the weapons researcher. As you can see by the weapons behind him, he works with enemy weapons to make them usable by adventurers like yourself. The breakthrough is required for almost all the skills, which is a little unfortunate considering you can only use 1 or 2 of these skills at any given time. However, the power of each is well worth it in most cases. The breakthrough is called Repair Matrix. Gradually repairs worn equipment over time. Restores 1 durability every 8 seconds. I'm still on the fence about this costing a breakthrough point, but with enough playtime I think it would feel more balanced than it looks. Repairing equipment is very useful when your skills are being used so often. Now for the skills themselves. Conjure Runic Greatmace. Required, a Lexicon. Conjures a Runic Greatmace which acts as a Lexicon. It's given Wind Imbue if the player has the Runic Prefix passive from Rune Sage Skill Trainer. This is a very strong ability that will be ridiculous if you have Runic Prefix. The red color also gives you a more evil side to runes, which is a cool idea. With this much ethereal damage, you would be able to take on anything as the one true rune mage. Conjure Runic Shield. Required, a Lexicon. Conjures a Runic Shield which inflicts Haunted on shield charge and acts as a Lexicon. It's given Ethereal Shield Imbue if the player has the Runic Prefix passive from Rune Sage Skill Trainer. A Runic Shield is very interesting. I never thought about this, but it's actually perfect. A Lexicon that can block and protect you. Inflicting Haunted and using ethereal damage is a deadly combination. You could make some much more interesting rune builds with this option. Finally, we get to the cannon. Easily my favorite weapon as it is so cool. As long as you have a lightning-based infusion on, either a varnish or a rag, in fact Holy Mission could be good for this with infused light. The cannon can be used with Chain Lightning and Fire Cannon. Chain Lightning sends out a wave of electricity, spreading magic across a wide area covering everything in your way. It does stop your movement, which will make it tricky to use, but regardless, it's top-notch. Then you use Fire Cannon, which lets loose a lightning ball. This cannon with these 2 skills turns you into one of those lightning golems that are really annoying with their aimbot. What's even better is this costs no mana whatsoever to use. Both skills are on a cooldown and merely require the light infusion. So a cooldown build with lightning damage has limitless potential. Decay Wave. Required Immaculate Mace. Corruption over 50%. Launch a wave of decay. Caution will inflict the player with the disease known as Corruption Poisoning. With some levels of corruption, you could send out waves of decay energy. Basically, you become the ultimate Immaculate. Now, this does require corruption, but if you're using the Immaculate weapons enough, this will not be a problem. Remember, they build up corruption due to the new disease. If you can't already tell, these skills are really strong and have some excellent ranged potential. In co-op, these could massively change up the flow of combat. Next, we have Draw Gargoyle Blade and Draw Gargoyle Mace. I was confused by these at first, but they're very well designed. As long as you have the Gargoyle backpack on, you can use either skill to grant you a giant mace or giant sword. Both backpacks work with the skills, but obviously the unique one looks a bit cooler. The weapons are slow, much like heavy weapons would be, but they pack a punch. The interesting thing is, though, that they go away after about 8 to 10 seconds. You get a few swings in, and then the things simply disappear. This forces you to play exactly like a gargoyle, casting your weapon and then pulling out the other weapon while you wait for the next one's cooldown. Due to the slow speed, I imagine both would be more difficult to use in combat, but a great take on combat, and could make for very different gameplay. Ethereal Blast. Required, Dream World Halberd. Corruption over 50%. Slams the staff into the ground, emitting a blast of ethereal doing AoE damage. Caution will inflict the player with the disease known as Corruption Poisoning. This skill makes this already epic halberd even more interesting. It gives you the ability of an Immaculate Dreamer with the strong power of ethereal damage. I have no way of knowing if it's good or not. I didn't really fight anything with this one to better show it off, but having some other form of attack is always useful. Explosive Chakram Pierce. Required, Jin's Chakram. Launch the disc forward, possibly hitting the enemy twice and leaving exploding mines behind. As per the Chakram nature, this skill is somewhat tricky to use, but powerful once handled correctly. You get the damage of the Chakram as well as blast damage from mines left behind. The animation's very fast, and I think once mastered, it could be a much needed tool for Chakram builds. Fire Crossbow. Required, Giant Kind Crossbow and Giant Kind Bolts. Fires a high impact and long range crossbow bolt which inflicts extreme poison. For this one, you need to craft the bolts, which require 3 palladium spikes and a poison rag, or just buy them from Ironside. But it's really strong. You have pretty much limitless range and can deal massive decay damage. It also knocks over enemies easily and deals that good poison damage over time. I think with everything given by this skill, you have a more powerful bow build, a true monster hunter with ridiculous damage from afar. Fire Macegun. Required, Calixa's Macegun and all elemental boons. Fires the Macegun, dealing high impact. This is the best ability of anything in the entire mod as far as I'm concerned. It turns your melee weapon into a double fire rifle. The cooldown is low enough to be used multiple times in combat, and it's perfect for gun melee hybrid builds, because it's one-handed, so you can essentially dual-wield guns and still melee when you need to. This also only requires the elemental boons to be active, so if you potion up correctly, you probably don't even need mana. I found I was able to stay very safe in combat while also dealing out large amounts of damage. Please try this one specifically if you're interested in this mod at all. Would highly recommend. Lastly, we have 2 skills for the Gold Lich Staff. One is Throw Staff, which lets you throw a staff at your enemies. The other is Lightning Blast, which casts a small lightning explosion from the ground. The Lightning Blast is very underwhelming. Especially after seeing the Lightmender use it, the damage is quite poor, and I didn't really get much out of it. Not useless, but not nearly as strong as I would hope, considering this comes from a breakthrough point. With lightning damage bonuses, you might be able to fix it, but needs a minor buff in my opinion. As for the Throw Staff, this one's pretty good. You get to attack from far away, and it will damage enemies at a decent amount. My main problem is the Wind Sigil already puts out more damage than either of these easily. But maybe if you use this with the Wind Sigil, you could have more control in battle, since sigils can't move. And there you have the mod NPC Weapons. I think I covered everything included. Almost all of the items and skills feel reasonably balanced with maybe a minor adjustment to the staff, but overall, this is some top-notch work. I imagine this will spice up the gameplay quite a bit if you played through Outward a few times. The skills are hefty in price due to the breakthrough point, but once you use them, I think you'll feel it's somewhat justified. I don't have much else to say except I love this one, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it was a bit longer, but I really needed to cover every single item in this new mod, as I feel like it was interesting. Feel free to comment down below which your favorite weapon was. The cannon, hammer, and Calixa's gun are easy favorites for being so unique. But come on, who doesn't want to hit people with an oar, or even a shovel? Thanks for watching everybody, and I'll catch you next time.